Good morning, I'm Diane Macedo. Today on ABC News Live, Ukraine's President Zelensky is issuing a new warning why he says Russia might try something, quote, particularly nasty this week, as we learn more about the car bomb that killed the daughter of a key Putin ally. And millions of Americans are under flood alerts after torrential downpours in Texas. 7 inches of rain fell in just a few hours. Meanwhile, the Southwest is getting slammed with monsoon rains. Here where the storms are headed next, plus the latest on the search for a missing hiker after floods at Zion National Park. And basketball great Dennis Rodman has announced he's planning to go to Russia to seek the release of WNBA star Brittany Griner. Hear the warning from the White House this morning. We begin with Russia's top security service blaming Ukraine for a car bomb that killed Daria Dugina, daughter of public figure and Putin ally Alexander Dugin. Ukrainian President Zelensky is denying involvement in that blast, but he is warning that Russia might try something, quote, particularly nasty this week ahead of Ukraine's Independence Day. Britt Clennett is in Kyiv, Ukraine, with the latest.
Video on Russian television shows the aftermath of an explosion, a car seen engulfed in flames. New details emerge on the suspected car bomb that killed the daughter of a key Putin ally. The victim, 29-year-old Daria Dugina, daughter of Alexander Dugin, an ultra-nationalist political philosopher and staunch supporter of the war in Ukraine, often referred to as Putin's brain. Russian television showing what appears to be her father standing in the debris, holding his head in shock moments after the detonation. According to Russian state media, Dugina was driving home from a forum, attended with her father outside of Moscow. The vehicle belonged to Dugin. Russia now saying they were meant to leave the event together, but Daria chose to drive alone. Russian authorities claim a bomb planted under the bottom of Dugina's car on the driver's side was triggered remotely and allege Ukraine may be responsible without any evidence. Ukraine denying any involvement in the incident, and a top aide to Ukrainian President Zelensky saying the Kremlin wants to use the killing to increase ideological pressure on the Russian people. This as Ukraine is already on heightened alert, just days away from their Independence Day, President Zelensky warning of a potential escalation. Saying, we should be aware that this week Russia may try to do something particularly nasty, something particularly cruel. Such is our enemy. While Wednesday marks Independence Day, it also happens to be exactly 6 months to the day since Russia invaded Ukraine. Gatherings are banned and state employees have been told to stay away from central Kyiv as a precaution. Diane?
Britt Clennett, stay safe, Britt. Thank you. And Basketball Hall of Famer Dennis Rodman has announced he's planning to travel to Russia to help secure the release of WNBA star Brittany Griner. A State Department official tells ABC News they're aware of reports that Rodman intends to travel to Moscow, but the Biden administration has openly discouraged him from going. Our foreign correspondent James Longman is in London with the latest on that. Hi, James.
Yeah, hi, Diane. Dennis Rodman is claiming that he's got permission to travel to Russia to help him try and secure the release of basketball star Brittany Griner. Now, it's not clear who's given him this permission. It's certainly not the White House. They are actively discouraging him from carrying out this trip. And a senior administration official has told ABC News that the administration has made a significant offer to the Russians, and anything other than negotiation further through the established channel is likely to complicate and hinder release efforts. The travel advisory at the moment in the United States for Russia is at level 4, which means do not travel. Dennis Rodman has tried this sort of thing before. He's been to North Korea on these sort of private diplomacy efforts to talk to Kim Jong-un, and he's also been to Russia before. He says he knows Vladimir Putin. Brittany Griner, though, she's been in jail the last 6 months. She was convicted on drugs charges after vape cartridges were found in her luggage at an airport near Moscow. She was convicted of those charges and sentenced to 9 years in jail. Negotiations have been ongoing between the United States and Russia to try to get her out in some kind of prisoner exchange. Victor Bout, he is an arms dealer convicted and currently in federal custody in the United States. He was offered up in exchange for both Griner and former Marine Paul Whelan, who's in Russian custody as well. That offer was rejected, so I think it's somewhat of a stalemate right now. Diane.
All right, James Longman, thanks for that. And more than 15 million Americans are on alert for flash flooding after a weekend of torrential rain across the South. In Dallas, people are bracing for nearly 8 inches of rain, which could result in catastrophic flooding. It comes after a weekend of rain in parts of Texas fell so fast, drivers were forced to abandon their cars. Our Will Carr is in Dallas with the latest.
Texas getting hammered with flash floods. 7 inches of rain falling in just 3 hours in Fort Worth. cars stalling out, unable to make it through intersections. Drivers jumping in to help others, many forced to abandon their cars as millions of Americans are now under flood alerts. Relentless monsoon rains pummeling the Southwest over the weekend. In New Mexico, around 150 people stuck for hours without food or water in Carlsbad Caverns National Park after roads were left impassable.
Nobody knew what time we could leave. We thought maybe a couple of hours. We didn't realize we'd be there all night.
In Utah's Zion National Park, trees and debris carried away as a search is underway for a missing hiker after floodwaters knocked Jital Agnihotri off her feet while she was hiking. So far, only her backpack has been found. The deluge turning roads in Moab to torrents of water thanks to a devastating drought. Bone-dry terrain failing to absorb the water that's pounded the region over the past 48 hours. Floodwaters spreading so quickly, patrons helping workers try to salvage what they can at this restaurant.
Back here in Texas, as rain continues to pound this area, we've seen car after car drive through intersections with water. I want to show you the tailpipe on this car is only about 12 inches off the ground. If that gets in water, that's all it takes to stall out. So the best thing you can do is if you see standing water is to turn around. Diane.
Such important advice, Will. Sometimes you can't tell how deep it is until it's too late. And voters in New York and Florida are gearing up for what will be the last major primary day before the midterm elections. ABC News congressional correspondent Rachel Scott gives us a preview of what to expect and what's at stake. Hi, Rachel.
Hey, Diane, good morning. Yes, it's the last major primary day ahead of the critical midterm elections. It kicks off in just 24 hours, and it will be a consequential day for Democrats. So let's start in the battleground state of Florida. Tuesday's primaries will determine which Democratic candidate will face off against the state's governor, Ron DeSantis, in November. It's a two-person race between the state's Commissioner of Agriculture, Nikki Fried, and Representative Charlie Crist, who was once the Republican governor of the state. Now he's vying for the Democratic nomination. And in the race for Senate, Tuesday's primary is also expected to solidify a highly watched matchup between Republican Senator Marco Rubio and Democratic Congresswoman Val Demings, with control of the Senate on the line. In New York, there is a slate of contentious and messy Democratic primaries. The congressional maps were redrawn earlier this year, and so now you have two top-ranking officials, two committee chairs, Carolyn Maloney and Jerry Nadler. They are facing off. Diana, I can tell you that most Democrats have stayed out of these races, trying to see how they just all shake out here. But Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has endorsed Nadler, Diane.
All right, Rachel Scott, thanks for that. Let's bring in ABC News political contributors Barbara Comstock, a former Republican congresswoman from Virginia, and Yvette Simpson, the CEO of the progressive group Democracy for America, for more on this. Ladies, thank you both for being here. Barbara, I want to start with you. Ron DeSantis, governor there, is considered the main contender for the Republican nomination for president in 2024, currently the governor of Florida. And he's considered the main contender besides, of course, former President Trump. How could this race affect his chances there?
Listen, he was up in Pennsylvania this past week, and he's so confident of winning, re-election for governor that he's now running around supporting other governors, in Arizona, Kerry Lake, in Pennsylvania, with Doug Mastriano, two election deniers. And then he was with J.D. Vance, who's running for Senate. I always think it's, when you are running for re-election, probably a good idea to stay in your state, not take things for granted like that. And also, when he finished his speech for Doug Mastriano, Donald Trump immediately announced he was going to go and have a rally there. So I can imagine you're going to see Donald Trump going to Pennsylvania and saying, my rally was bigger and better, and more people turned out, because I don't think he particularly appreciates that Ron DeSantis is trying to horn in on his MAGA territory.
Now, Yvette, Congresswoman Liz Cheney is also now considering a run for president. How do you think that would affect a potential race here, not only for Republicans, but also for Democrats?
I think it depends. Democrats were rallying around Liz Cheney when she was trying to save her House seat in Wyoming. But I think because Democrats are really worried about the presidential, you won't see as many Democrats rallying behind her in a run for president, right? Because we want to protect that. And you've already started to hear people shift from, yes, she was kind of a champion during the Trump trial and January 6th in particular, but she also is a Trump person, 92%, 93% she votes with Trump. So I don't think she gets the traction. And that was one of the things that kind of progressives had kind of raised the red flag about is if you continue to make Liz Cheney a hero, if she runs for president, will Democrats rally behind her instead of question mark whoever the Democratic nominee will be on our side in 2024?
Now, Barbara, of 6 Republican Congress members who voted to impeach Trump, 4 have now lost their primaries despite outspending their opponents. Liz Cheney's just one of those. So what message does that send to Republican donors?
Well, I think it's a sad message, but the problem now for Republicans is, particularly on the Senate side, you have these election deniers, which I would point out, Liz Cheney has said that she's committed to, say, people like Carrie Lake, people like Doug Mastriano, and these other election deniers that got the nomination. She's committed to opposing these type of candidates who are dangerous to democracy, as am I. I oppose those candidates, and will join with independents and Democrats who recognize that these are dangerous candidates. But I think until you can have a Republican Party that is going to work to unite Republicans, independents, and even open-minded Democrats who want to, get back to the rule of law, the Constitution, and focus on policies instead of a cult of personality, I think you are going to have Republicans, as I think we're going to see in these Senate races and some of these governor races, we're going to take seats that we should have won, and they're going to be taken off the table, and we're going to lose.
All right, Barbara Comstock, Yvette Simpson, we appreciate it as always. Thank you both.
Thanks, Nate.
Coming up, Congresswoman Liz Cheney is speaking to our John Carl after losing that primary to a Trump-backed challenger. What she's planning to do next and her response to whether the January 6th committee will call on former President Trump to testify when we come back. Welcome back. Congresswoman Liz Cheney, an outspoken Republican critic of President Trump, is now speaking out after losing her primary in a landslide to a Trump-backed challenger. Cheney's launching a political organization aimed at keeping Trump out of the White House and says she's even considering a run for president herself. But for her last few months in office, she says her priority is wrapping up her work on the House committee investigating January 6th attack on the Capitol. Chief Washington correspondent Jonathan Karl sat down with Cheney in that committee hearing room where she says she would not rule out calling the former president to testify.
The execution of the search warrant by the FBI in Mar-a-Lago, what was your reaction when you first heard about that?
That it's a very serious thing. I think that when you think about the fact that we were in a position where the FBI, the Department of Justice, felt the need to execute a search warrant at the home of a former president, that's a really serious thing for the nation. I was ashamed to hear Republicans immediately and reflexively attack the FBI agents who executed the search warrant. I, was disgusted when I learned that President Trump had released the names of those agents when he released the unredacted search warrant, and that has now caused violence. We've seen threats of violence. The judge himself, his synagogue had to cancel services because of threats of violence. This is a really dangerous moment.
At the heart of those attacks from your fellow Republicans on the FBI and on DOJ is the idea that this was politically motivated. Are you entirely confident that there was no political motivation behind this by the Biden administration or by the Attorney General?
I've seen no evidence that there was any political motivation. You've now got, the judge reviewing whether or not the affidavit or portions of it will be released. I think that will provide us additional information. It also seems to be the case that there were clearly ongoing efforts to get back whatever this information was, and that it was not presented, that the former president was unwilling to give back these materials. Now we will see, we'll learn more, but it's a really serious thing, and I just think that for us as a party to be in a position where we're reflexively attacking career law enforcement professionals in order to defend the former president who conducted himself the way this one did, it's a really sad day for the party.
I mean, could it be that his handling of government records, classified information, that could be what brings Donald Trump down after all of this?
I mean, look, we'll see. Everyone has an obligation and a responsibility, and clearly the handling of classified information is something that's really serious.
Our thanks to John Carl for that interview. And let's bring in senior investigative reporter Aaron Katersky, along with former federal prosecutor Renato Mariotti for more on this. Thank you both for being here. Aaron, Cheney says the committee's in discussions with former Vice President Mike Pence's team. Do you expect him to testify?
I don't, Diane, and if he does, maybe in some limited way. The vice president has left open the door to considering an invitation from the January 6th committee, which he said has not formally come yet. And our understanding here at ABC News is that the committee has been talking with his attorney behind the scenes for a couple of months about some possible testimony. But he has also given a number of caveats. When he spoke recently at a breakfast in New Hampshire, he said that he's a little bit worried about the separation of powers. He talked about how unusual it would be for a vice president, or in his case, a former vice president, to be summoned to testify before Congress. So he's clearly nervous about breaching lines. But the committee has been actively recruiting him, and members have spoken openly about how excited they are that he's even considering the possibility, because he would instantly become a star witness for the committee should he ever agree to testify, even in some limited fashion.
Now, Renato, a judge has said that he may seek to unseal portions of the affidavit supporting the Mar-a-Lago search warrant. The DOJ is meant to propose redactions on Thursday. So what are you looking out for in this process?
Well, I will say I'm surprised the judge is even considering releasing part of this. And what I think is most likely to be revealed is the portion of the affidavit that discusses communications with the former president and his team, because a lot of that has already been reported. That's stuff that the defense could also always release if they wanted to. And I don't think that paints the former president in a good light, and I think it would provide justification to the government for why they went in and searched. So that's the sort of thing that I'd expect the government to be willing to release. What I don't think is going to be released is anything regarding descriptions of what's in the documents, sources of their information, details about the layout of Mar-a-Lago or where things were stored, that sort of thing.
Now, Aaron, we've seen Republicans jump to Trump's defense in the wake of the search on Mar-a-Lago, criticizing the move by the FBI. What could the affidavit do to shed light on that decision?
Well, I think if there is some kind of underlying reason why the FBI was so suspicious that potential crimes had occurred, maybe critics would tend to agree, or the documents are so meaningful, if they really do, as our friends at the Washington Post have reported, if they really do revolve around nuclear weapons or national defense, that could be something where some Republicans might say, geez, okay, the FBI was justified. Now, among the former president's hardcore supporters, you tend to doubt anything that would be released is going to be terribly convincing to them. But I think, Diane, that nothing would ever be released that would go that far to perhaps tamp down the criticism. And if you're inclined to believe that the FBI should be defunded over this, well, I'm not sure a document's release is necessarily going to convince you otherwise. And having said that, we know from a new filing just today that the judge is even giving credence to the idea pushed by the Justice Department that this is going to have to be so heavily redacted that it may not be terribly meaningful at all. And he's especially concerned about anything that would give away the description of the former president's estate. He said that would make it harder for the Secret Service to do its job.
All right, Aaron Katersky, Renato Mariotti, thank you both. Coming up, the news coming in about Dr. Fauci and his plans to step down after more than 50 years of public service. Stay with us. Welcome back to ABC News Live. Dr. Anthony Fauci, the country's top infectious disease expert, has announced that he plans to step down in December to pursue, quote, the next phase of his career. Fauci has led the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases since 1984. But since 2020, he's become the public face of the government's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. President Biden called Fauci's commitment to his work, quote, unwavering, and said he does it with an unparalleled spirit and scientific integrity. If you're among the millions of Americans who rely on coffee to get your day going, those lattes are going to cost you a latte more. According to the Wall Street Journal, bad weather in Brazil, the world's leader in coffee production, has left farmers there with much less crop than usual. The coffee industry is also dealing with supply chain issues, driving prices even higher. The average price for a pound of coffee today, $6.11. That's compared to a year ago when it was $4.56. New images from the James Webb Space Telescope are giving us a look at planet Jupiter like we've never seen it before. Scientists say the pictures give us a new perspective on the planet, showing never-before-seen details including rings, tiny satellites, and even galaxies. And ABC News has made a commitment to reporting on gun violence in America. And today we're sharing the story of someone who's working every day for a solution in his community. Norman Cottrell formed the Virginia All-Star Band to help make a difference in the lives of young people in his hometown of Richmond and across the state of Virginia through music. Robin Roberts has his story.
The mighty sound of the Virginia All-Star Band is made up of heart.
This instrument provides color,
discipline, and purpose. Using instruments as a pathway for young people to elevate their education.
Music actually helped me with going to college. Things like band scholarships and like that have been rolling out on like a regular. And when you pick up this horn and you play your part, the only thing on your mind is that music.
At the same time, it's an outlet to escape and help them to stay off the streets.
They help me just be a better person. You know, they're not just mentoring music, they're mentoring people.
When it comes to taking care of them, that's my #1 priority. They can call me at any minute. I'll be there.
The founder, Norman Cottrell, is well aware of the challenges his students face. His hometown of Richmond leads Virginia in gun violence incidents, with over 160 cases so far this year.
Sometimes your surroundings, man, you're not fortunate. So they come here, they have fun, they can be themselves, they can come here and express themselves through music.
In middle school, Norman picked up the sax, finding refuge in music. He's now inspiring others to do the same.
I was always in trouble. I was always doing something, but music saved me, helped me get out of trouble.
1, 2, ready.
The group helping transform lives one note at a time, although the challenges of limited resources and instruments weigh heavy.
We like to buy the used or broken instruments. I can pretty much fix them by hand most of the time. We've even started using our donations to give the people gas money to come out here. It's just been really tough, but we're not going to give up on them.
It's just a good feeling to not only teach and help kids get through their day-to-day, but also help them in the next step. It's deeper than just hearing the music. It's hearing the success stories that I get from my students, and that's what I love about it.
Our thanks to Robin Roberts for that story, and our thanks to you for joining us. I'm Diane Macedo. Stay with us as ABC News Live continues with more news, context, and analysis. We'll be right back.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.